changed the title yet, so let me go do
Yeah, they were talking about the manifesto that leaked from the trans shooter.
that.
You know,
Yes.
but yeah, what I was gonna start out by saying is that it's interesting because far back in the older days in Sweden, right? If you saw like because this I have explained to you previously many times, but like it's so funny to me that back then, like in the 1800s or something, if you were out in the forest, then you saw a green road, you don't walk down that shit because you're done. That's over. You will disappear forever. But now, with the state of how fucking people treat everyone and like how people especially treat men, it feels like if a man, like the standard Swedish man, right, was walking in the forest and he saw a green road that could potentially lead somewhere, that he could at least find some potential, he would run down that shit so fast, man. And I just find that sort of funny, how much things have changed.
Mm-hmm.
That was what I was gonna say.
I also
Because
should. I I was interested in hearing the answer to this question, which is those images that you generated using AI of Swedish soldiers, at least in my, let's say, outsider perspective, they all look kind of the same.
yeah,
Was that deliberate on your part, or was that just an artifact of them being like generated by AI?
uh, both artifact and that Swedish people, we sort of do look the same. In if we get a group of Swedish people, we all sort of look the same. Not
Mm-hmm.
me, because as I said, like I'm part Sami, part Gypsy, right? So
Did
I
you
look
see? Okay,
different.
I have to send this to you because I saw it like earlier today and it's very funny. On two Western Europe for you, they have like this history uh, of the Swedish state TV where the
Mhm.
characters are all black about the
Okay.
history of Sweden, and I'm like,
No
apparently,
way.
yeah, in the comments they're saying that like 8,000 years ago the people really were black there, and I'm like, okay, but I still find it funny. I send it to you on Discord.
This is this is the most ridiculous thing. What the fuck is this?
Um, Swedish is
If
very
you
diverse and very
no, this is
inclusive.
oh my fucking god. Oh my fuck. I mean, listen, if it's like a kids show, then fine, whatever, right? Because it is for kids and they explain things. Because I remember when I was a kid and they show like Vikings and stuff. There was sometimes there were like the black actors like playing a Viking, but it was like a kids show, right? So it would be
Mhm.
like you wouldn't show the horrible things Vikings did. It was more like oh you don't see and stuff. But this is like not that. Then yeah, it's shit. Except the girl on the lower right. Because if she plays a Sami person, then sure, that's what we look like.
I see. Yeah, I
Yes,
figured that
that's
that
what
was
I'm
at
watching.
least not impossible. Although it still like looks very far from the generated AI
Yes,
images that you sent me.
yes,
For obvious
yes.
reasons.
Yeah, no, the thing is like there was somewhere, I don't know if it was in Sweden or any other, like, but I do know one of the royal houses in Europe. What happened was that one of them, like this was like again 300 or 400 long time ago, they
Mhm.
did go down to Africa and pick up a kid there. So I don't know if they abducted him, like this poor kid from his family, or if he was like an orphan or something. And that brought him back to, let's say it was Holland. I don't know if it was, but they brought him back to Holland and they gave him an education. And then like, forced him to socialize with the Dutch society. So he became like a well known, what is it called? What is it? The person next to Knight who give them the armor and everything. Who
Squire.
give them the squire. Yes, he became a squire, and he was so famous. So they have a painting of him. So like
Hmm.
in like Holland, if you go into their like royal house or show all the, whatever country, but let's say as like again, let's say it was Holland, you will see like all these white people that like one black guy, and then like it continues being all white. So in the middle of it is like a black guy who was a squire.
Mm. Is
And
it?
I,
This is not the
I
saint,
find it funny.
right?
No. Oh yeah. No.
I know there is a Black Saint which is European, and I know that he had a similar story, if I remember correctly.
You mean what is it like? No. What is it? It's Saint Nicholas but he had workers that they paint in blackface in Holland. But I
Mm.
don't know if they're supposed to be black people or if it's just
No,
it's
no,
supposed to be so.
it is an actual African man who became a saint in Europe.
Oh, okay. That
Yes.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I don't remember
That's
his name,
interesting, though.
so but since you mentioned it, I just figured that maybe it's the same person, but maybe it's not. I'm
Yeah.
finding out how to add the
That,
image to the stream. A second, just so people know what we're talking about. Although it has no relation to what we're talking, like the topic of the day. But that's par for
no,
the course.
yes. No, it's just it's cringe, but no one watches Swedish television anymore anyway. So that's
Mm,
probably like Swedes who was in the comments. The correct answer is who watches Swedish television anymore. That would be the correct because I only watch it for the news.
mm.
When I'm back home. Otherwise, I don't watch any of our shows anymore because all of it is just like the same fucking show. It's a crime or something. Like a detective or something solving a crime, and then he has like this cold, emotionless woman sidekick, or it's the other way around. That it's like a woman being this hard-ass detective, and a guy being cold and emotionless. And that's like all our shows. So that's why I don't watch any Swedish shows anymore. They're really boring.
I see.
We we used to have really fantastic. I mean, here's the thing: Sweden is like known for cinema. Like back then, from the 50s to the 80s, we
Huh.
had some fantastic fucking films that came out that shaped a lot of cinema. Yeah, world cinema. So we were like really big at it at one point, but now it's just a joke at this point. You know.
Yes, I can think. I mean, I don't know much about the history of cinema to be able to understand exactly what place Sweden has in it, but I guess maybe my ignorance is proof that Sweden is no longer that big because I can't think of Swedish movies. So.
There is one film that we did. I mean, obviously, it was the girl with the dragon tattoo. That was pretty big. But then the thing is, like, the other movies in the series, or I never even watched them. Or, like, no, I never finished watching them, let's say that. But what I did want to say, there's one film where you can see the traces of what I think is kind of understood to be the staple we left, and that is Let the Right One In. Have you ever seen that movie?
I don't think so. No.
It's about this is bullied kid who gets a neighbor who is a vampire, like a
Oh,
child vampire.
I think I have. I actually haven't seen the whole movie. I have seen like parts of it because it was on cable TV, I think.
Yeah, did you
Is
see Swedish or American
this?
one?
I'm seeing Google Images right now. Wait, I don't know if that's actually the movie I'm thinking of. So what's the plot of the movie?
So as I said, like, it is bullied kid, and then he befriends this vampire, and then this vampire is like kind of understanding, and then says, "Hey, just fight back. What's gonna
Lol.
happen?" Like, and then he said, yeah, it sounds sort of like oh, you have anxiety, stop worrying. But
Yes.
the thing is, like, kids, since it's kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't for them because I think he's supposed to be 10 or 12, like they're supposed to be that age. And
Mm-hmm.
what happens is that he says, "Oh, I'm very sad. I'm getting bullied, which is fair, and he gets bullied really viciously, right? Like it's bad bullying." And then this vampire's name is Ellie or Elin. I forget, but something. Let's say Ellie. Ellie tells him, "Hey, fight back. Just punch him back." And then
Mm-hmm.
he's like, "Yeah, but I'm scared." And she's like, "You're scared now too. What is the difference?" And then he says, "But what if they hit me back?" And then she's like, "Yeah, hit them back harder." So that's sort of the plot of the film. And then because then it's also like that the vampire needs other it needs blood, obviously. So the vampire kid has like a dude living with him, or with her, I mean. And this vampire, or this custodian, or whatever you want to say, it is later shown that he's like a pedophile or something that she blackmails to help her. Because she loses her old custodian, and then I don't remember how, but she loses her old custodian because she's like old. She's like from before, like around the Viking age, because that's how old this vampire is, right?
Yes.
And so she loses her old custodian, and then she, when she tries to find a new one, she finds specifically a pedophile, and tells him, "Hey, either you help me," because I don't remember how she gets leverage on him, either by just finding out info or something, but I am very certain she blackmails him and says, "Hey, either I go to the cops and they find all your fucking images and everything, you come live with me. I will even let you touch me sometimes." It's a very dark story, by the way. I should say that it's very dark. So she said,
It,
"Hey, you can
uh,
touch me if you
Gather, it's
want,
fine.
but
Don't you know?
yeah, yeah,
In Baldur's Gate 3, you can have sex with a bear, but it's not zoophilia because the bear is actually a druid. And so it's not
I
pedophilia if it's a vampire who's hundreds of years old. It doesn't matter, it has a child's body, you know?
actually I think she's like over 1,000 years old. So it's like actually like the meme, actually like the fucking meme. But anyway, I'm just gonna cut to the chase. And then and then this pedophile has to go out hunting victims for her.
Mm.
And then that's sort of the plot of that film. But it's very iconic. It has a very iconic scene in it that is very good, because the pedophile fails bringing back a victim, so she has to hunt herself. And so what happens is that she is like in a overpass or like an underpass, whatever. It's a bridge thing,
Yes.
and she's hiding up in the things, and then they do these things with silhouettes. So you see the silhouette of the kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she says, "Oh, I'm hurt. I'm so hurt." And then like this guy comes up and helps her, and it's about to help her. Then you see the silhouette of the monster launching up and, you know, starting eating him. And the thing is also that it's filled with snow. This film is like filled with snow. It's always snowing in the film.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, so you kind of, so if you, so with that said, have you seen this film? I should have
Not
answered
at
that
all.
before, but so it's in,
You did ask
no,
me, and I said that I thought that I did, but as you told me about the plot, I realized no, that was a different movie, so I haven't seen it.
yeah, and I know that you don't really like horror that much, and
Perfect.
but if for some reason you're like, nah, fuck it, I would recommend reading the book, because the book is actually, it's really good, and
Mm.
it also has other plots, and you kind of, because the thing about like the kid who gets bullied, right, is that you understand a lot about like how it's a thing Jordan Peterson talks about, right? You know how we see ourselves, we haven't updated our memories and stuff.
Yes,
In
so
this
we
latest book,
still think we are,
hmm,
our younger selves. Like the story
yes,
that he tells is very, very
hmm,
iconic of this, right? It's like this
yeah,
girl who was essentially molested by her brother, and in her mind, it's like her, 20 something year old brother who's molesting her, but they were actually both kids, and so
hmm,
she essentially like grew him up in her memory, but she remained a child, and so
hmm.
you can, yeah, the phenomenon that you described is very iconic. I think it's very. I'm not sure if it's common, but it does happen, especially with like trauma victims.
Yeah, no, I have no, I haven't. I don't have that trauma, right? Because that's insane. Like, and really
Yes.
try, and it's also, so I don't have that sort of trauma. But I have like trauma of like when I was a kid and didn't fight back, and stuff like that. And then like against bigger kids and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Or like anyway, point there being that in that sense, you kind of understand it more, right? And then you also see the horror of, how bullying, how because I mean, you and me, we can come up with these great ideas how to stop it and like how to, hey, is this actually even bullying? Is this bullying? What is bullying? Like you and me, we can have a very productive conversation about it, right? But when it
Mm.
fucking boils down to it, with bullies, when you're a kid, the only fucking option you have is to punch back and punch back harder. That's the only option you have. If it's
Yes.
obviously physical, if it's wearable, then it's another thing. I'm not fucking crazy
Okay.
or anything. I'm not
You
saying it.
just you just gave me
Yeah,
the
go on.
best gateway to the actual conversation, because there's
Yes.
another way to actually deal with bullies. It's you grab
Yeah.
a gun and then you go to school and then you
Exactly right.
shoot up innocent victims which have nothing to do with the reason you're miserable. But since you're miserable, you have all of the righteousness in the world to be able to kill innocent people and not feel bad about it. Uh,
Mm.
so that's like there's a it is very interesting that the actual motivation behind basically every school shooter is the same. Because you'd think that they
Yes.
would be at least a little original about it, but it's always the same story, you know? Kid is bullied, feels like the world is against them, and then decides that it is not enough that they take themselves out. They have to inflict as much pain on not even the actual people that hurt them, but on completely innocent people, because for some reason, to actually do exactly what people did to you when you were innocent will make things okay now, because now you're the one who's doing it. It's like, I mean, you know what I'm saying. Like, it's completely fucking insane, but somehow it keeps happening?
Yeah, no, here's the thing. I do hear you because the thing that I never understood with, I mean, or how to say, I mean, it's, what I mean, understand, it's very, maybe the worst word to use, but what I mean really is this, that let's say you're being bullied, right? It was actually this one story on, another story on Reddit, that all about almost school shooter, where in his case it at least made sort of sense in a horrific way, right? But he was, as we talked about earlier, he was bullied and always by the same group of kids, or like his peers, sorry, like in the same group of peers. So he went home and got his dad's gun, and he was like, I'm gonna kill these people, I'm gonna kill those people, I'm gonna show them what it feels like, being powerless. So he has
Yes.
the gun in his front pocket, or like, the lining. And he goes up to the table, about to pull it out. And then what happens is something that would be hilarious if it wasn't a skit, but now it's just tragic and dark. The fucking gun, for some reason that he said he can't explain, slid like in between his boxers and the jeans and down on the floor when he went to pull it up. You
Uh
know.
huh.
So then he was sent to a center, and he said, and literally said, "Yeah, I'm on meds now," and or not meds, but he was doing goodish, I guess, like as good as someone who has been rehabilitated for such a thing ever could. Point there
Yes.
being that in his case, he at least went for the guys that bullied him. He didn't
Yes.
go for innocent people, had nothing to do with it, because if you go after bullies, I might sound harsh now. I can sort of understand, but it would be it's very long and very a lot of caveats. Point here
No, it's
being
fine. I
that
understand precisely what you mean. Don't worry about it. I think that anyone who,
yeah,
with a lick of sense, would be able to understand that you're not condoning vengeance. You're just
yeah,
realizing that there is actually like a cause and effect, and
hmm,
whilst the person is still responsible for the consequences of their actions, it's still the case that we can see how there's a cause and an effect between a person being bullied and then taking revenge, whilst you know when it's like someone just hurting innocent people because they were hurt, there isn't actually a cause and effect. There is just
um,
which is why I said
yeah.
it's insane. There isn't a direct consequence. Like, it's completely like the I think the point is for it to be insane. Like, it isn't meant to make sense, and that's why they do it.
No, I agree with that. It's
So
because in this case,
yes,
because
I would like if you were able to uh tell me the whole story about the the trans school shooter, because I don't know
Yes.
the whole story, and I would appreciate if you actually told me.
So first of all, it's this whole thing about, because I never understood if she was trans or she was non-binary or whatever, but everyone is calling her she, so I will do the same. If I'm misgendering, okay, all right. Like, I'm not. Everyone who knows me and has heard me and you talk on this stream knows that. Like, I'm not one of those people. Just like I'm gonna be a fucking asshole, and at the same time, she, she did kill a lot of people, so don't get me, I'm not gonna be like, oh no, I misgendered a monster, I don't,
Yes.
so, but anyway, here's the thing. So she was trans, yes, a trans man, I believe, and she had gone to this school before, and then she decided to go there and start shooting people up,
Mm-hmm.
and the
So
response was really quick
ju-
from the sheriff's office.
just a
Continue. What
yes,
were you
just
going to say?
a clarification. Is this school the same school she went to, or is just another school?
Same school she went to.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, she goes there and does the crime, starts shooting people and kids,
Yes.
and then the alarm goes off, and then they're very quick. Like the cops in that area were really quick and really professional with dealing with her as a threat. They
Mm-hmm.
go and shoot her immediately, essentially. And
Yes.
also, she was not giving up. That's, if someone says that, if you ever see that, no, that's a lie. Because what they do, it's like clear what they do. Because they go in and then they see her sitting in like, one of those gathering areas in a school, but it's like those, we used to call ours the hub, but it's, you have two corridors that merge, and in that merging point, they have like a big, sort of area where you can hang out and stuff. That it was in that area where they saw her,
Like a
and
mess
then they
hall, a
say,
cafeteria, or just a fucking.
"No, it's a let's say common room, but it's not really a common room. It's I don't know how schools are in Brazil. Like maybe it's just Swedish schools that are, and there's one school in Kentucky that has that much funding. But our school did have like those gathering areas, like where there wasn't like a mess hall. It was just like gathering area where you could sit and study or talk with your friends and stuff. So
Mm,
so it's one of those areas they saw her in, and then the cop says, hands up, go get down on the floor and everything. But no, she starts getting up and starts moving her gun, and then yeah, they shoot her. That's
yes.
that. So it's very important to me that people don't go out thinking that, oh no, this is like that she was surrendering or something. She wasn't. She was about to do something, or at least the perception of them was that. But anyway, then what happened is that they wanted to release her manifesto, but everyone refused to do it. But the cops in the area, or the head sheriff, what is it called, like sheriff? What is it called? Sheriff. What is this called? The sheriff. Anyway, let's say the sheriff. The sheriff of the area the shooting took place in said that yes, this was motivated. We know it was motivated. But then he didn't say anything else and said, I'm not going to release the manifesto. Or said
Mhm.
they were not going to release the manifesto until Crowder did it.
Yes.
And that point, that one part you can actually explain to me because I don't understand. How did he get hold of it? Do you know?
I do not. I heard, if I remember correctly, that someone sent it to him, but I don't know the details of it.
Yeah, no, but yeah, it seemed like she had it in for white people, let's say it that way. She was
Yes.
really angry at
I
white
should.
people and she was like white kids and stuff. So,
Here's the thing, though, and this is the part where it gets very complicated
Mhm.
because one could say, and I don't agree with this, but I think it's important to at least state this opinion, right? One could say that because this person is white, then the fact that they're being racist against white people isn't possible, essentially, right? Like how a black person says the N word and they can say it because implicit is the fact that since they are black, that word doesn't actually have the racist connotation that it would have if it were used by a non-black person. Um, so when this, what is her name? I forget. Do you remember?
Name of the shooter? No, I don't know.
Yes.
I have never heard it.
So let me just Google it because it's gonna be annoying to just use pronouns about the person we actually don't even. Okay, it's Audrey Hale. So Audrey.
Oh yes, that's the name. Yes.
Um, so Audrey is white, and one could use the same logic that I just laid out to say, well, she can't be racist because she's white. Like she can't be racist towards white people. And let's. I feel like there is no point in going over why it's retarded to say that it's impossible to be racist against white people. Um, if possible, I'd like not to have this conversation. So if we both can accept that it's possible to be racist against white people, and now we can discuss whether you can be white and racist against white people. And I think yes, you can. And I think that it's actually more common to be racist towards white people if you are white, at least from what I see. Like a lot of anti-white sentiment that I see is like self-flagellating in nature. Um, they're white people who have been taught again and again that white people are evil because they oppress other groups, because, in history, white people used to own slaves. And I mean, I should probably point out white people also ended slavery, and slavery was not a white thing. Like the biggest slave traders were Arabic, and white people were enslaved both in Egypt and all over Africa and in Europe as well. Uh, Rome fucking enslaved white people because they were, despite being white, because it wasn't ever a race thing until 100 years ago. It used to be just a you belong to another nation. I have conquered your nation. Now I can do whatever the fuck I want with you. And that was the thing until the British essentially said, yeah, if you try to uh, sell slaves, we are going to shoot down your ship. And that essentially
Yes.
ended slavery. Um, and so it's completely irrational to try to blame white people for slavery. It's like not only were we not the biggest slavers, but we were also the only people who stopped it. So we actually
And
deserve credit
also,
for that instead of blame. But go ahead.
yeah, yeah, no, it's this story of like the white slave trade. I have to look into, like, I'm talking about like white people being sold as slaves because there's one very briefly, it's like a folk hero or like a legend in Scandinavia, or more pertinent to Denmark, called Red Snake is his name, and he was sold into slavery by, and like was on the African, like by to Africa or something. It was insane. So,
Mm-hmm.
or like Northern Africa. So he was in the, so the reason he became strong and could escape like his chains, so it was as so it were, was because he was on one of those rowing boats,
Mm-hmm.
and he got so strong. So he got so big and strong that he could finally, like, escape his chains, because he could just, he had a home to return to. So he could
Yes.
just beeline. He could just beeline over Northern Europe, or like the northern part of the Mediterranean, back to Denmark, and it's not that far if you are in the Western Mediterranean. I mean, it sucks going all that way, but you can do it. It's fine. It would just take you maybe a tops a
Yes.
year or something.
There are
But
many
anyway, I
stories
agree.
of people like that, which are very fascinating. Of people who were able to start as slaves and end up having like major impact in history due to their accomplishments towards life. And they're
Yeah,
not just white.
but
Like a lot of black people who were
mm,
enslaved also had a similar
mm,
story.
mm, yeah, and but to say, yeah, I know the claim. Like, I haven't heard a claim, but it wouldn't surprise me if someone did it. But that oh, she's white and that therefore she can't be racist against white people. And it's like, I mean, I've heard for so long, people claiming that, for example, Ben Shapiro can actually be a Nazi, and those kind of things. It's always interesting to see who uses the argument, right? Because if you look through
Yes.
their history or something, they're making the same case. Like, oh, what is her name? Candace Owens says that's her name. Like,
Mm.
Candace Owens is a racist towards black people, even though she's black herself.
Yes, but the same
And
people will say that black people can't be racist towards white black people because it's impossible. Like they will use the opposite argument depending on which side they're on. Or like a good
yeah,
example of this is like there's this interview on the Jordan Peterson podcast which he has with I think it was like an evolutionary. No, it's not. It's the guy who went to the Supreme Court to end affirmative
oh
action
yeah,
in Harvard.
that guy.
Yes,
Yeah, it was a good
that was
interview.
yes, and he's like a scientist, right? He does. I don't remember what specialty is in. I think it's something like sociology. Uh, but he did a few studies regarding affirmative action, and one thing he mentions in the interview is that he would have like two papers use the exact same methodology, and one of them would uh, imply that affirmative action was having a good effect, and one would have the opposite conclusion. And they had the exact same methodology, everything was the same, and then some publications would complement the paper which was for their ideology, which was in favor of affirmative action, and trash the other paper. And since the papers were exactly the same in terms of methodology, then the only reason that they were actually choosing to trash one paper and to complement the other was because it actually confirmed their views. And this is not like uh, uneducated people. Those are people who are actually selecting the publications, right? Editors and stuff. So you can see precisely how willing some people are to completely be hypocrites just to further their own agenda.
No, I agree. It's like that whole thing, like those hoax papers they published, like Peter Boghossian, I think, is one of them.
Yes.
Like those, yeah, it's the same thing. So, yeah,
Yeah. So
it's,
if I go back to because I we sort of went into a tangent. Um.
mm,
So this, but let's say that we both then agree that white people can be racist towards white people. Um.
yes.
So is the motivation of this person racist in nature? Because I actually can see that maybe it isn't, because if you read her manifesto, she does use obviously anti-white language, right? She uses the word cracker, um,
Mm,
and she also like speaks as if, I mean, she's essentially blaming white people for uh, her own jealousy, I guess, because she's saying like, oh, these people with like the nice shoes or the nice clothes or something like that. Um, and so she's conflating like being rich with being white, and she's conflating being rich as being better than her, and she's conflating being better than her as doing something wrong to her, right? Like
yeah,
you can
yeah.
see how
I
she's
do
actually
see what you're
confusing
saying.
all of those. Like she's essentially saying that because those people are being um like, I'm not sure, like they are appearing as better than me, then I'm justified in what I'm doing. That's essentially like the rationale behind the shooting, I guess.
Can you hold up for 2 seconds? Because I just need to finish reading this. Because I'm
Yes.
rereading the manifesto. Give
Okay.
me like 10 seconds.
You can also read it out loud if you want, because you know.
I'm not. I'm not sure if that's allowed on YouTube. Where I'm gonna
Oh,
put this.
oh,
One thing I need to say is that I just finished reading it, by the way.
yeah.
Is that she sucks at spelling.
There's
I
a,
mean,
you know,
she says
mm,
cockis. She spelled. I'm so annoyed. She spells cockis like quackis.
wait,
That's so annoying.
hockey's like, oh, the pants. Yeah, I got it.
Yes, that
Yes.
she misspells there.
Yes, I mean,
She says
for whatever reason,
she sounds like
Americans can't spell like your and their. They have no idea.
dude. She sounds like fucking Judy Alvarez in Cyberpunk 2077 when she flirts with you when you play as a female V. She
Oh,
says that. She says heifer. That's the first thing I was like thinking when I saw her spell there. She spells there Thier.
so you're saying that all LGBT people are the same, and Judy
Yes,
Alvarez is a
yes,
school
exactly.
shooter,
Yes,
and I
yes,
guess
obviously. Yes,
trans people don't exist. They're just lesbians in disguise or something. Uh,
yes,
but go ahead.
yes. That's exactly what I'm saying, right? No. Memes aside, um, so now when I reread it, I did miss some of the things you were saying at the end, but I think I understood. That's the thing. Like I see your like you can make the argument that she's more angry at rich people than white people, but functionally, it doesn't matter to
Yes,
me, right?
in her mind, and this is why I don't think that's the best argument. In her mind, it's pretty clear that she's conflating being rich with being white. She thinks it's the same thing, as
Yes.
if there were no poor white people, which is ridiculous. Like, what the fuck are rednecks if not poor white people, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not sure, but she's saying as if she was poor. I have no idea what her conditions were. I have to assume that she wouldn't feel so, you know, downtrodden if she were rich. It would be very stupid of
Oh,
her to be. And
no, but
so she is white. Like, has no one told
yeah, but
her? Does she not know this?
This is a very important point because she went to this because this is like a school was really rich. This school, right? And she went there herself, so it
Mm.
stands to reason that she was from a wealthy family.
Okay, but do you actually know this? Like, do you know that she actually went to the school, like she studied there, or
No, I do know she went to the school, but it might have been that she was there on a scholarship from her
okay?
parents, or like her parents. So it might have been that she was poor. I doubt it though,
Mm-hmm.
because she would. Here's the thing: she was also on the hormones and stuff, and those point is that that shit is not cheap. You know, it's not cheap. So
Then
and those
again,
other
I'm pretty
things. You know,
sure that, uh, like, I, I don't know how to say this in a way that isn't controversial, but I'm pretty sure there's many people who are interested in funding, uh, let's say, transgender healthcare, and not only funding, but like doing everything they can to speed up the process as much as they can, because that's like I've seen this interview with this woman who is like a sexual therapist, and she goes over how she was trained to deal with trans people, and it's
hmm.
very much let's get you ready for surgery as soon as we can. Like it's very um you'd think that it would be a very long and arduous process, but it's not. And apparently there is a lot of interests from people trying to make it not expensive either. It's being
Yeah,
treated as
sure.
part of. I'm not sure if it's Planned Parenthood. I don't remember what organization it is, but there are like people funding this, and so I don't think that you can use the argument that the hormones were a sign of being rich necessarily.
I mean, sure that she could have been one of those people, but I mean, also this idea because I have looked into like from what I've seen, is that these hormones and getting onto them in America, where she was, it is hard, like to get access to these things. In Canada, it's not. In Sweden, I don't think it is either. It's now because they changed the laws, thank God. But in other countries, it is easier than in America. But I think the biggest how to say evidence I would give that she's rich is that she did go to school previously. So, I mean, she must have gotten the money from somewhere. So I
And
do
it's
think she
I
was rich.
I would also point out that there are clandestine ways to acquire hormones, which are
Yes,
not difficult even in the US, right? Like you go to a
undertable, yes, I
fucking
know that.
I mean, you go to a femboy Discord group and you're gonna find five fucking, HRT dealers. Um, it's like
I keep telling you HRT and watching 2 episodes of Bambi Sleep, it's not the same, okay? You need to stop conflating these things.
I sometimes get confused, but nonetheless, we have to. Like, I just want to point out that it's not like I don't want to just accept that she is rich. Because like how the like it's already a fucking difficult like connection to make what she's doing, right? She's white, but she hates white people, and she hates white people because white people are rich, and they're richer than her, but she isn't poor. She's rich, and also she's white, and so like you understand how many fucking loops of logic you have to get to the position that we are apparently saying that she holds. So I would
I mean,
prefer, if possible, to try to reserve the possibility that she is indeed poor. Let's say by American standards, right? Which isn't very poor, but you know.
even if here's the thing though, and I think you will agree with me on this, is that let's say that she was fucking super fucking rich, right?
Mm.
Does that? I don't understand how does that change your argument? Because she still would hate people richer than her, right? Because that's sort of what
But the
people in this ideology
things,
do. They hate.
yes,
Or does
yes.
it change something?
But the thing is that like you're talking about khaki pants, and if you're rich, you can afford them, right? You have to be able to afford khaki pants if you're rich, unless we're not talking about the same thing when we're saying rich, right? So
Yeah.
I have to assume, although I do understand this is obviously a mentally insane person, so
Yes.
it's obvious like not everything that she says is going to make sense. In fact, most of what we've read about her makes no sense. But if like I don't want to just abandon reason, if I can avoid it, I would still try to. Uh, I mean, maybe she is rich, but she is obviously someone who hates rich people, and she complains, which might be unjust, but she complains about people richer than her, and she uses the things that they dress with as like proof that they're richer. So let's just let's keep open the possibility that she's not rich.
She might have just been. Here's the thing: the whole cocky pants thing. It's a trope that you give to rich people, right? That they all wear
Yes,
cocky pants and go to a
yes, that's
golf
true.
club.
That's true.
So it might
Yes.
have been that too. Yeah, so it might have been that too. So what I'm getting at too is that I think here's the thing, but I feel I agree on that anyway. Like the point I made previous before we got into if she was rich or not, is that she functionally she is doing even if she was just killing the rich, she's still committing a fucking hate crime because it's white people and she keeps bringing white people up interchangeably with rich people. So
Yes.
in that case, to me, but you also said that that wasn't your argument; it was just an argument you would make. But then you acknowledged that it wasn't the
Yes, because
let's say strong side.
I felt that we were going to agree on this, and like although it makes for like faster conversation, it's still important to at least like
Yes, of
acknowledge
course.
that there are many people who would try to make the other argument.
Yeah, I mean, in the same vein, right? What I would say, and this is the problem I have with both. Like, that's why if I went to America, I would honestly actually be unironically a centrist because I wouldn't be able to fit in. Like, if I put in up all of my fucking opinions, they wouldn't know what to do with me, man. They wouldn't. Because here's the thing, I could say on the left they are a problem with like sweeping this shit under the rug and then focusing when someone on the right does it. Like, for example, that fucking rat job in Maine, right?
Yes.
You know, yeah, like then it's like, and I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about it. Of course, we should talk about it. That was a heinous act that guy did, and this guy in Kentucky, same thing, right? We should focus on that, and they don't focus on that. But then on the right, they will say, oh yeah, this person was on, like, oh, this person needs, we shouldn't, stop the gun rights and stuff like that, and they need psychological help and stuff. But then they won't talk about what psychological help they need, or like do something about so they get the help they need, and they won't solve their bullying problem. And I never, that's the thing that I also have a problem with. Like, they won't, because every time you listen to right wingers talk about bullying, they won't, they put it in such a way when they don't realize that if you get bullied as a kid, right? Like, I'm not talking about like, when I say bullied, I mean like actually viciously, like the guy we talked about in the beginning, right? The guy in the vampire story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that fucks you up so badly, but we don't want to solve that or help these people. Like, so I don't know. It's like it's an L take for both sides or whatever you want
So
to say. So I don't.
I
Anyway, go on.
don't I don't know how to, because like I have the feeling that this conversation has been had many times, and I don't think
Yes.
that it's possible to do anything about it from this angle. So I would like to try to steer this conversation, because this is not the same school shooting as every other school shooting. This is a little
No.
different, right? And so
Yes.
there are things about this shooting which make it more interesting to discuss. Um, and so let me go over how I came across like the Steven Crowder leak, right?
Yes.
So I saw on, because I'm a centrist, and I'm not like, how do I put it? I'm not the leftist's idea of a centrist, but I am a centrist. And
Yeah.
what that means to me, one of the things that means to me, is that I actually have to listen to what both sides are speaking. And that doesn't mean I listen to what my side is saying that the other side is saying. I actually go and listen to what the other side is saying. And one of the things that includes is that when I go on Reddit, I see like world news, I see like animetiris, which is actually like a better fucking like news
Yeah.
platform than world news. I also see Are Conservative, for example, and I actually don't like that sub at all, but it's good to at least see stuff that's different from what you see everywhere else on Reddit, right? And so I came across this news about the manifesto of the school shooter, and I actually didn't even like pay attention to it because I am actually not very interested in that kind of thing normally, because it's not something that is relatable to me. Uh, I don't live in America. Whether the gun laws in America change is irrelevant to me, and so since I don't have like a personal interest in it, I just you know shelved it. But what happened was I saw a post in my newsfeed which was removed by Reddit later, and I that got my attention, right? Um, so I went in and I realized that the comments on that thread were the exact same comments on that school shooting thing. And so then I went to look into what was happening. And then I read the manifesto. I realized, oh, this is an anti white school shooter, which is not
Mm.
necessarily common. Um, and there's censorship happening here, and it's quick as well. Like this isn't because it's one thing if they remove it like a day later, they removed hours later. So someone is actively already taking sides about this story. Um,
Mm.
and then I also saw that this manifesto was known by the police, and even though the manifesto, in my opinion, has a very clear like justification for why Audrey did what she did, apparently that wasn't like not only was that hidden from like the manifesto wasn't released, the police said that oh they were just ramblings and there was no explanation, like there was no coherent intent behind the act or whatever. Um, and so when you realize in hindsight, it isn't that they couldn't find what the reason for the attack was, it's that the reason for the attack was harmful to a certain narrative, which is, I mean, many narratives really. First, trans people can't be violent. No, they can. They're human beings like us, and they can be violent because human beings can be violent. A second narrative was um, whites racism doesn't exist. Like racism against white people is it doesn't exist. Um, a third narrative is the oppressed can't like the people like what's the proletariat won't be violent against the bourgeoisie, which is
Yes.
there is like it is exactly the opposite of the truth if you look at it. Every time the proletariat got into power, that's exactly the opposite of the truth. But nonetheless, people still make that argument. And, if you are able to censor when it happens, then you can keep peddling the same bullshit because people won't realize that you're peddling bullshit. And so the police didn't release the manifesto, and Reddit is actively censoring it as soon as it got out. And this is why I think this particular event is important uh, as compared to other school shootings. Like, let me be clear. I understand that, for example, the majority of school shooters are white. Um, so I don't think that I can claim that, they are all like Audrey. In fact, Audrey is very much the exception. But it is incredibly interesting that you are not allowed to talk about the exception at all because it doesn't fit with how someone wants everyone to look at it. And I mean, it does show how much like the information that we have access to is being controlled to, I mean, to serve a certain agenda. That's the only way to say it. Um, and
But I mean,
uh,
how would you? That's a thing, though. I don't quite understand. I see, like from your point of view, where you're going with it, but there's an important, how to say, line here that I don't see that you have connected.
okay.
What's saying that, and I think it's important because I still agree that it is weird that Facebook, Instagram, and Reddit have removed all of this. So let me say that first, and I think that's wrong. But you're saying that it gets taken down because of a certain narrative. But what is your proof that it is being taken down for a certain narrative?
Because this is not the same as every other school shooting, right?
I get
Every
that.
other school shooting, as soon as there was a motive which was aligned with a certain political ideology, and let me be clear because there is no reason for me to be this fucking discreet about what I'm saying. When it did align with this um, leftist ideology, for example, when the shooter was a person who was racist towards black people, or when the person was white. Like the case of Audrey actually happened like that way, right? Immediately, what
Mm.
came out was, oh, it's a white shooter. Therefore, it's racism against black people, and oh, look, the white people are violent, and so on and so forth, as it always happens. And of course, there is also the case that, for example, when there's like a Latino or a black shooter, uh, people say the same thing on the right in reverse, right? Um, but what you don't see is censorship from the part of the right. The right doesn't have control of the narrative. They can't actually censor things. The left can. And you can see that because whenever things happen that don't fit their particular narrative, they are hidden. But when they do, not only they are not hidden, they are extremely broadcasted as widely as they can. And so you can see the difference in treatments and draw your conclusions. And I don't think it's a conspiracy theory to point out how reliably that happens, because anyone who's been watching can see the pattern. Um, I don't have a better explanation. I would accept an alternative if you have one.
But this is what I think is that I think it's a very simple, boring explanation. And I think it is because did you see the whole ADL thing with Elon? That ADL was on him on his case. Did you
What's
see that?
ADL? What is ADL?
Anti Defamation League.
Oh,
Uh,
I don't
yeah,
remember. What was that about?
it's so essentially what happened was that the ADL has been like saying to Elon like you have to put in more how to say not censorship. They didn't use that word, but that's what they meant against people, or
Oh, was
we are
this
gonna keep.
Europe? Like the
It could
the
have,
the European Union talking about
yeah,
not allowing Twitter in Europe because it doesn't follow their censorship rules or whatever.
that's one part of it, but this part in particular was the ADL, which is an American organization,
Uh huh.
and they are saying, "Oh, that's we're gonna keep talking to your advertisers and like telling them that you have this anti-Semitic and racist platform and stuff." It looked really bad, and then Elon said that they were doing it and stuff, and that seems to be more or less true. I haven't seen anyone debunk it, but if someone debunks it and it's untrue, then sure, whatever, then sure, fine. But so I think in this case, with Instagram and Facebook, they toe the fucking ADL line,
Okay,
like to a
so
T, right? So I
it,
think it's very boring that it's about that they don't want to lose advertisers because then
okay,
ADL will be on them if they don't remove it.
so I actually don't think that I need to challenge you on this because I don't think it actually substantially alters what I said. Because it doesn't matter whether the left has control of the narrative because they are in control of the companies or because they are able to threaten to cancel companies which fail to submit to their demands. Like it doesn't matter whether the control is direct or indirect. The what matters is can they control the narrative, and I think they can. And if you're going to say, well, the way that they control the narrative is by essentially making companies do what they want, uh, over threat of uh, essentially making them lose financial support, then it doesn't change the fact that uh, it's the left controlling the narrative, right?
No, functionally, sure.
Yeah, so it's still um, okay. I mean, if you're in agreement, then I guess we can go over uh, whether that's the more likely explanation or not. But since we are in agreement, I think that um, I mean, I don't know, like, do you not think that this case, like the trans shooter case, like, because what? Like, is the police afraid of the anti-defamation link? Like, is that what's happening? I don't think
Okay,
so.
so this okay. I actually do have an answer to that, or like my fear on that. But I will also say we are in agreement so far that functionally it becomes the same. Because
Mm-hmm.
you're saying more that it's the left in control and stuff, and I'm saying no, it's the advertisers. But say we are in agreement so far that functionally it becomes the same. Because
Mm-hmm.
you're saying more that it's the left in control and stuff, and I'm saying no, it's the advertisers. But functionally becomes the same because the advertisers wants what the left wants or something like that. It's hard to explain, but
Yes.
anyway. But here's the thing: I feel like the cops, I don't think they're doing it because of, how to say, censorship reasons the same way Facebook or Instagram is doing it. I think they're doing it because they want peace in, they just want peace in, how to say, how to say this? They just want to solve this in peace and look through it in peace, and they can't do that if they have a bunch of people calling them all the time and saying, oh, you are groomers, or oh, you are protecting the left. Oh, like now they don't need that hassle, so they don't want it. So I think it's more that way. That's why.
But like from a let's say a jurisdictional perspective, I'm not sure if that's the right word
Yes.
for what I'm about to say, but hopefully you understand. Like, if the police is saying that there isn't justification for the act in the manifesto, and then when the state goes to prosecute the trans shooter, I mean, I guess in this case, I mean, she died, right, in the shooting, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yes, they
But
still want to prosecute.
yes, but it would still be like the normal attitude of the police would be to be careful about what they say because it will affect how the court is going to read it, right? And so if the police immediately says that there isn't an actual justification for the shooting in the manifesto, then they can claim, that the person was, acting in a fit of rage or whatever, and not actually premeditating the crime or whatever, which would be like a less harsh sentence. And maybe instead of getting the death penalty or whatever is the harshest punishment that they have in the state there, they would get something like life in prison instead. And since, like, as a police officer, you have to be trained in not saying stuff that will compromise the prosecution later. So I don't know if you can actually use well, the police are not interested in uh, what the media or the people say. They just want to investigate in peace. I don't think that that's like, because if they want to investigate in peace, they can just not release the manifesto, but they also won't say whether there is reasoning behind the shooting. What they did was say there is no reason, right? They didn't say we don't know the reason. They didn't say we won't say the reason. They said there is no reason, and so I think it's very much taking a side in the discussion. And then when the manifesto does come out, it looks like uh, there was an intent there, which wasn't just to be left alone. They actually wanted to take a side.
I think because I'm gonna say this because then we need to wrap this because you are going
Yes.
to sleep soon and we had to sort out the Baldur's Gate situation. I will
Yes.
say this though, that I see what you mean in a way. I disagree because I think that them saying, "Oh, there was nothing here," is usually what they say when they want to just put a lid on something, or like put a lid on something in terms of wanting peace and quiet, not in terms that they want to cover it up. But yeah, that would be my counter.
Hmm.
But yes, do you want to
I mean,
end the stream?
yes, I think we probably should because I am already quite sleepy and we do have to
Oh,
fix the thing. And I think it's
yes.
probably gonna take a little longer than I wish. So let's end this discussion here. I am going to
Yes.
end the stream unless you have something else that you want to add.
No, thanks everyone for listening. Brazil still
Yes,
cringe.
yes, and gypsies are evil. Now end the stream.